sound of scratching still haunts me. It wasn't the kind you expect from rats or restless animals. No, this was different. Long, deliberate, and slow, like claws raking across wood. I was only 10 the year our village forgot Christmas. I will never forget what followed. Agboroko had always been alive with Christmas cheers. We didn't have much, but we celebrated with all our hearts. Every December, the women would weave palm leaves into decorations. The men would hunt for the Christmas feast, and the children would rehearse carols for days. The church bell rang at dawn, calling us to sing and dance until our throats were sore and our feet ached. But that year, it was as if joy had been drained from the village. The harvest had failed, leaving empty granaries and bitter hearts. The chief, a man whose word was law, told us, "This year there will be no Christmas. We cannot feast when we have no food. Focus on surviving the season." At first, people murmured in agreement, but as the days passed, an eerie quiet settled over Agboroko. The church doors remained shut. The streets were empty of song, and the village square, where we used to gather around a great bonfire, felt cold and lifeless. I overheard the elders whispering about the Akpanja. They said it was an ancient spirit that punished those who neglected tradition, especially Christmas. "It will come for us," one of them muttered, his voice shaking. But the chief laughed off their fears, calling it childish nonsense. The first sign came on the night of December 21st. I was lying in bed, staring at the dark ceiling, when I heard it. The scratching at our door. It started faintly, like someone testing the strength of the wood. Then it grew louder, more insistent. I held my breath, my heart pounding. My mother, sitting by the dying fire, whispered, "Don't move, don't make a sound." The scratching stopped suddenly, replaced by a low, harsh growl that didn't sound human. In the morning, we found the footprints of a large animal outside our door, except they weren't animal prints. They looked like elongated hands with claws. The following night, the hedgerow's goat pen was found empty. No sign of a break-in, no blood, just silence. By December 23rd, things grew worse. The twins, Toby and Tade, were the first to vanish. Their mother woke up to find their mat empty and their door wide open. She swore she had locked it. The villagers searched the forest, calling their names, but the twins were gone. That same night, Baba Femi, our storyteller, disappeared. His hut was undisturbed, his lantern still burning, his walking stick left by the bed. It was as if he had walked into the night and melted into the darkness. The fear was now obvious. People muttered prayers under their breath, avoided the square, and locked their doors at dusk. Yet, the scratching and growling continued. The elders, now visibly shaken, decided to call a meeting. We gathered in the square under the pale light of a crescent moon. The chief, trying to mask his fear, stood before us. "This is the work of thieves or wild animals," he declared. "We will post guards tonight to protect the village." But one elder, his voice trembling, interrupted. "This is no thief. It is the Akpanja. We forgot Christmas, and now it is here to punish us." The crowd murmured in fear. The chief dismissed the elder with a wave of his hand. But I saw a doubt flicker in his eyes. That night, my father was one of the guards. Armed with a spear, he sat by the fire outside our home. I stayed awake, watching him from the shadows of our huts. Midnight came, and with it, the scratching. It started faintly, just like before, but this time it was accompanied by a voice, a low, rasping whisper that made my skin crawl. "You forgot me," it said. The fire flickered and dimmed as if the night itself was swallowing the lights. My father gripped his spear and shouted, "Show yourself!" And then the fire went out completely. I heard the sound of something heavy falling, a strangled gasp, and then silence. When the fire reignited, my father was gone. His spear lay broken in two. By Christmas Eve, the village was nearly deserted. Most families had fled into the forest, hoping to escape whatever was haunting us. My mother and I stayed behind, too terrified to leave. That was the night the Akpanja showed itself. It was nothing like I imagined. It wasn't an animal or even a man. It was tall and skeletal. It limped impossibly long. It held eyes glowing faintly. His skin looked like burnt wood, cracked and peeling, and its mouth was a black void that seemed to swallow the light. It didn't speak, but its presence was deafening. It glided through the village, its long fingers brushing against doors as it moved. When it reached our huts, it stopped and pointed towards the church. My mother grabbed my hand, and together we ran. The church doors cracked as we pushed them open. The stale air heavy with dust. My mother lit a candle and placed it on the altar. She knelt, whispering prayers I didn't understand. I joined her, trembling. The scratching grew louder outside the church, accompanied by that same harsh growl. But the creature didn't enter. The candles flamed grew brighter, filling the church with a warm glow. Outside, the glowing turned into a furious roar. Then silence. When we stepped outside at dawn, the village was still. Those who had fled returned cautiously, but the square had changed. At its center stood a single tree, twisted and charred its branches, forming the shape of a cross. Beneath it lay the belongings of those who had disappeared. Clothes, tools, the twins' favorite toy. From that year onward, Agboroko never forgot Christmas again. The church bells rang louder. The carols were sung with more passion, and the bonfire burned brighter. But for me, Christmas will always bring a chill. Every Christmas Eve, I light a candle and place it by my door. I don't know if the Akpanja will return, but I will never risk it.